2 in the morning along a major freight corridor. Dozens of trucks sit motionless, yet every engine is running. From outside, it looks like pure waste. Nearly a gallon of diesel is burning every hour, multiplied across 15 million trucks that haul 73% of everything you buy. But turning off that engine is not always an option. Behind the rumble is a locked chain of engineering, economics, and federal law most people never see. Every day, nearly 15 million trucks operate across North America, hauling freight that keeps grocery stores, pharmacies, factories, and online warehouses stocked. These trucks cover an astonishing 330 billion miles each year. On any given night, tens of thousands line up at rest stops and truck plazas, engines humming in the dark. This is not a minor detail in the logistics chain. Trucks move nearly 73% of all freight in the United States by weight, about 11 billion tons annually. Without them, shelves would empty in days and supply chains would grind to a halt. But these trucks are more than just cargo haulers. For long-haul drivers, the cab is a rolling apartment and an office. Most modern rigs are equipped with sleeper berths, compact living spaces behind the driver's seat that serve as bedrooms, kitchens, and for many the only private space they'll have for hundreds of miles. Federal rules require drivers to take at least 10 consecutive hours off duty for every shift, with 7 of those hours spent in the sleeper berth itself. Surveys show that over 90% of long-haul drivers use these berths for overnight rest, and on major corridors, occupancy rates reach 80% or higher. Inside the cab, the engine powers not just the wheels, but also the climate control, lighting, electronics, and medical devices that drivers rely on during mandatory rest periods. For many, shutting down the engine means losing heat in winter, air conditioning in summer, or even the ability to run a CPAP machine for sleep apnea. The reality is that each individual decision to keep an engine running, multiplied by millions, becomes a critical link in the nation's supply chain and a matter of personal safety and comfort for those living on the road. Across the United States, more than 30 states have passed laws that limit how long a parked semi-truck can idle. These anti-idling statutes set caps ranging from 5 to 15 minutes, with penalties that can reach several $100s per violation. On paper, the rules look strict, but every statute contains a set of built-in exceptions, legal carve-outs that reflect the realities of life on the road. When outside temperatures drop below freezing or climb above 85 degrees, most states allow continuous idling to keep the sleeper cab habitable. Medical exemptions are also common. Drivers who depend on powered devices like CPAP machines for sleep apnea can legally idle their engines overnight if needed for health and safety. For those hauling temperature-sensitive cargo, such as fresh produce, frozen foods, or pharmaceuticals, the law makes further allowances. If shutting off the engine would risk spoiling a load worth thousands of dollars, drivers are permitted to keep their engines or auxiliary units running to maintain the required temperature range. The result is a patchwork of enforcement. In 2022 and 2023, state agencies issued about 12,400 idling citations nationwide. Most were concentrated in regions with extreme weather, and nearly 70% of cited drivers claimed cab heating as their reason for exceeding time limits. Regulators acknowledge that exemptions are not just loopholes, they are a necessary recognition of what it takes to keep both people and cargo safe. One state air quality official put it plainly, "We want to reduce unnecessary idling, but we can't ask drivers to freeze, overheat, or lose critical shipments. These exceptions do not erase the law, but they do turn the simple act of shutting off a truck into a complex decision." The legal landscape sets the stage for the engineering challenges and human needs that follow. A diesel engine doesn't just wake up ready to work. Under the hood, the entire system is built around compression ignition, where air is squeezed to as much as 25 times its original pressure, generating the heat needed to ignite fuel. In winter, the engine block and oil can drop far below the temperatures needed for smooth operation. When the engine sits cold overnight, oil thickens and clings to metal parts instead of flowing freely. This means that bearings, pistons, and turbochargers are left without the protection they need during those first seconds after startup. Mechanics see the results. Repeated cold starts cause micro-abrasion, fatigue cracks, and early bearing wear. Even the diesel particulate filter, which traps soot, relies on exhaust heat to regenerate, a process that can fail if the engine never gets warm enough. Manufacturers like Cummins and PACCAR recommend idling for at least 10 minutes after a cold start, letting oil and coolant reach safe operating temperatures, typically between 180 and 210 degrees Fahrenheit, before putting the engine under load. In sub-zero weather, some drivers keep the engine running all night, not out of habit, but because the alternative is risking a no start at dawn or facing a costly repair far from home. As one veteran mechanic puts it, you can buy a little extra fuel, or you can buy a new engine. For drivers, the decision to idle isn't just about comfort, it's about protecting the machine that stands between them and a stranded morning. Maria settles into her sleeper berth as midnight creeps across the highway rest area. For her, the cab is more than a place to sleep, it is a lifeline. Like nearly 1 in 3 long-haul drivers, Maria has obstructive sleep apnea, a condition that makes restful sleep nearly impossible without medical help. Her CPAP machine, a small device drawing just 30 to 45 watts, keeps her airway open through the night. But that steady hum depends on continuous power. If the battery runs low or the engine is off too long, the machine stops, and so does her sleep. This is not just about comfort. Untreated sleep apnea quadruples the risk of highway crashes. Studies show that drivers who use their CPAP machines regularly are far less likely to nod off behind the wheel. For Maria, missing a night of therapy means more than a rough morning. It means risking her safety and the safety of everyone sharing the road. The need for power does not end with medical devices. In winter, a cold cab can sap energy and disrupt deep sleep. In summer, stifling heat makes rest nearly impossible. For drivers like Maria, keeping the engine running is not a matter of habit or convenience. It is a matter of health and survival, on and off the road. A single load of lettuce or strawberries can lose its entire value if temperatures drift just a few degrees outside the safe range. For fresh produce, that means holding steady between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Vaccines and other pharmaceuticals are even less forgiving, with strict requirements to stay between 35 and 46 degrees. The RF refrigeration units on these trailers, known in the industry as reefers, draw continuous power, often fueled by the main engine or a dedicated auxiliary unit. If the power fails, even for a short stretch, the cost can reach thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars in spoiled cargo. As one cold chain operator puts it, you can't take chances with a $20,000 load of berries. The engine stays on, or the shipment is at risk. This focus on cargo integrity isn't new. The habit of keeping trucks running overnight took root in the 1950s as the interstate highway system stretched across the country and long-haul routes became the backbone of American logistics. Early sleeper cabs were designed for comfort and convenience, but also for survival. Keeping the engine running was a way to guarantee warmth, power, and readiness for the next day's drive. Manuals and training programs from that era taught drivers to leave engines idling in cold weather, a practice reinforced by stories of breakdowns and costly losses when trucks were shut off too soon. Over decades, this approach became tradition, passed down through generations of drivers and echoed in the language of the industry. The result is a culture where idling is seen not as waste, but as insurance, protecting both people and the precious cargo that connects farm fields, factories, and pharmacies to the rest of the country. Idling comes with a clear price tag. A typical semi burns about 1 gallon of diesel every hour it sits running. At current fuel prices, around $3 a gallon, that adds up to $30 for a single 10-hour rest. For a driver who sleeps in the cab 5 nights a week, that is over $7,000 a year just to keep the engine on. While large fleets can sometimes negotiate lower rates or spread out the cost, independent owner-operators feel every dollar. Retrofitting a truck with an auxiliary power unit or APU can cost $8,000 to $12,000 up front. Industry estimates suggest less than 15% of owner-operators have made that investment. A fleet manager puts it bluntly: the numbers just do not work for most small operators. Fuel is expensive, but the alternative is often out of reach. Every hour a parked diesel truck idles, it releases about 22 pounds of carbon dioxide into the air, along with nitrogen oxides and fine particles that drift into nearby neighborhoods. For families living close to major rest stops, these emissions are not just numbers. They're linked to higher rates of asthma and other health problems. Community advocates have filed lawsuits demanding cleaner air and stronger enforcement, arguing that no one should have to trade their health for the nation's supply chain. The answer to why trucks keep running overnight is as much about protecting people and cargo as it is about protecting communities. Each idling engine is a compromise between mechanical necessity, legal reality, and the shared burden of pollution. Solving this dilemma means recognizing all those layers and building solutions that don't leave anyone behind. Tonight, millions of engines idle not out of choice but necessity, powering supply chains, driver safety, and the cold chain behind every stocked shelf. Until technology and policy catch up, that low diesel hum remains the soundtrack of modern logistics. The real waste is ignoring what it keeps moving. Thanks for watching.